Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon to all. Okay, to all students, welcome back to our colloquium sessions. So first of all, I would like to emphasize that this session is neither for me to give lecture nor telling you what to do about your research. It is just a sharing session. So I do believe that all of you have your own good supervisors who will guide you through conducting your research successfully. So the topic given to me is related to the theoretical framework and conceptual framework. Okay? So what is actually the theoretical framework and what is actually conceptual framework? I believe time and again you have come across the terms various many times. And I believe that you have read about this framework from various sources. So I don't have any specific references to give you. I'll share with you through my understanding and some reference that I refer to some references that I refer from Google and some from ChatGPT. Okay. As we all know that this framework do not come out of the blue. Of course, they need to be tailored to your research topic. Okay? So when discussing your research topic, it's important to clearly articulate your research paradigm. So I believe that you have taken the subject on research methodology, so you are already well versed with the topics of research paradigm. So now what is actually a research paradigm? Okay? Because the understanding of the research paradigm shapes your entire approach to inquiry, including your methodology, data collection, interpretations of your results. Okay. So before deciding on the research topic, a researcher must first consider your research paradigm. By what I mean by research paradigm, there are three pillars or three components of research paradigm there. Okay, so I'm not going through this research paradigm in detail. I just go through because before you talk about education, theoretical and conceptual framework, we have to tally to the research topic or to the research paradigm that you have chosen. Yeah. So a research paradigm is a worldview set of belief assumption about how knowledge is constructed. And of course, your research question, collect and analyze data and interpret findings. So see, this is the component of research paradigm. I believe you all already know of these components. So some say pillars, some references refer it to as a component. So there are three main components of the research paradigm. So what is it is ontology. So the study of reality, epistemology, then you have the methodology. Some references include methods as the fourth, and some references include ideology as the fourth pillars or the fourth component, right? So what is actually ideology? Okay, ontology is the study of reality. What is the nature of reality? What are the reality of your study? Is there a single reality, multiple realities? So now you have the epistemology is the study of knowledge, methodology, the study of the method, and ideology is as a researcher, we have to be objective. We are, as much as possible, we try to be not biased, right? That's the meaning of ideology. So that's actually the fourth pillar, a fourth component of research paradigm. So research paradigm, the pillars of research paradigm or the components of research paradigm, and then we have types of research paradigm. So this is actually the distinctions between qualitative and quantitative or collaboration of both. So the first one is positivism. Ini ialah quantitative. My background is not quantitative. My background is qualitative. So I belong to the interpretivisms or the constructivism. So positivism, reality is objective and measurable. Knowledge is gained through observation and experimentation, often uses quantitative method. Kalau interpretivism is very subjective, constructed by individual. Knowledge is interpreted through experience and context, and of course, the method is qualitative. So we have another two more, which is called critical theory and pragmatism. So before we talk about what is education's theoretical framework and your conceptual framework, it has to tally right from the beginning and your belief, your selections of your research paradigm, and so on and so forth. Right? Okay. So here is the paradigm and this ontology, epistemology, and methodology. Right? So I don't know which part of you belong to. Probably you belong to. Probably you are doing qualitative, quantitative. So you belong to positivism, or probably you. So these are actually the common research paradigm. Okay, after identifying the research paradigm, the next critical step in designing the research study is the application of the theoretical framework and conceptual framework. This is the time after you have decided, you have made decisions. So what study that you want to do, what topic you want to research, and what types of research paradigms that you have chosen. Now is for you to map out your theoretical framework and conceptual framework. Okay, why these frameworks are important in your study or in your research? Because it provides structured depth to your research, helping you link your research problem to existing knowledge and guiding methodology. I think at the end of this session, I'll show some example. One of my students who doing the qualitative research. Yeah. So now let's go to the theoretical framework. So what is the theoretical framework? So in essence, is a structure that draws upon existing theories to explain the relationship between variables in your study, grounded previous established knowledge, plans of what are the purpose to anchor your study, define key variables, and to guide your hypothesis development. If you are doing quantitative research, for example, self-determination theory as your theoretical framework. And I believe that as a teachers, we must understand what is learning theories. Learning theories actually theories that are derived from psychology. What's so important about learning theories? Because as a teachers, we teach student, we teach human being. That is the reason why understanding of the theory, learning theory is important. If we talk about the main theories that probably the main theories that you have learned is behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism. What is behaviorism? By right, what is behaviorism? The simple definition or the simple explanation is that learning occurs when there are changes in behavior. And so what is cognitivism? According to cognitivism, learning occurs not only because of changes in behavior, it has to go through a mental process. How the brain process so that the behavior changes. And then we have a constructivism. So what is the constructivism? The mental process has to be detailed. Learning occurs based on the previous knowledge. When you learn new knowledge, it has to be based on the previous knowledge. So there's a basic definitions of the learning theories. So Eh? If your topics, if your topic, your research topic about mm, mm, learning theories, so there are many learning theories that actually you can adopt in education, yeah. So it's a conceptual structure. Theoretical role is a conceptual structure underlying the principal concept, theories, and guide research. It's a blueprint that explains variables relate to each other. Intellectual foundation of a research study, providing a clear directions and guiding the development of research design, methodology, analysis. Okay. Sometimes it has to go back and back to and fro. So you start with your research. You start with your research objective, research questions, and then you have your research instrument, and then you have analysis. Yeah. Based on this, actually, you create the theoretical framework and the conceptual framework. Yeah. Theoretical framework is most often not something readily found within the literature. You must, of course, you have to read first and then try to formulate or generate the theoretical framework. But the key, the selection of the theory should depend on its appropriateness, because I'm talking about educational research is always related to teaching and learning. So any theories related to teaching and learning is suitable for your theoretical framework. If you are from the background of management, leadership, probably you have different types of theoretical framework that relate to the contents of your study. Okay, what are the three main components? Of course, you must have a variable, cause and effect. Dependent and independent variables if you are doing quantitative research. So relationship, the interactions between the variables, and then assumption. You make assumption first before you complete your study. Normally, we have a preconceived idea of the results of our research normally. So it is not the same as we have a bias bukan, tak sama So it can be explicit or it can be implicit. So there are different types of theoretical framework. So the first one is a descriptive theoretical framework. Descriptive. Describe phenomenon or concept in detail. So example, examine the characteristic. The study of examine the characteristics of a specific population, demographic. Oh, this is not education. The topic is not education. It's more on social science. Okay, then you have an explanatory and theoretical framework. Explain, investigate the causes of something. Then you have a predictive, prescriptive, and you have conceptual theoretical framework. It's not conceptual framework, but it's a conceptual theoretical framework. What is it? Focusing on developing new concept, theories, or models. To develop new theory of learning or model something. Organization, again, it is not education. It's more on leadership or management or okay. Here are the steps to create theoretical framework. So the first thing is to conduct literature review. Of course, as I said, The first thing is to develop your research paradigm, your research topic. What do you want to research? You have to conduct literature review. So the normal practice is to read the literature review before you can come up with your research topic. Probably you have your supervisor would ask you to suggest a topic, or your supervisor will be good, kind enough to give you a topic to do. And so it works both way. Either you create first, if the supervisor give you the topic, you not necessarily you agree, you want to change or you want to amend here and there, probably. So you all have to start with the literature review. So identify the concept, theories, model, whatsoever. So you have to develop a research question or hypothesis if you're doing quantitative research. A thorough literature review provides a solid foundation for developing a theoretical framework. Of course, to develop a theoretical framework and conceptual framework, you must have a good reading of your literature review because it will determine what your research topic. Then you will work on your theoretical and conceptual framework. So after you have read your literature review, you conceptualize your theoretical framework. Involve defining key concept, variable, relationship, and so forth. Key variable and their relationship, defining their theoretical perspective and assumption that underlie the framework, developing a clear, concise conceptual framework. I'll give you example right after this. We go through first the notes, then I'll provide examples. A well-conceptualized theoretical framework provide a clear direction for the research and ensure that the study is focused and relevant. So theoretical framework and conceptual work, they are in tandem, go hand in hand. So after you have conceptualized, then you operationalize the theoretical framework. You develop a clear, concise operation definition of each variable. You have to explain the variable, the connections of the variable, the relationship between the variables, between two or more variables, identifying the data sources, developing a plan for data analysis, and so that's why you must have after you have determined your research topic, you have your research of course, it comes after the problem statement, your problem statement, then you have a research objective. And from research objective, you formulate research questions. And then from the research question, then you will have a plan the research instrument and the analysis of your result later on. So you have to see this, then you work with theoretical framework. Probably you can work with theoretical framework first, then and conceptual framework, then you come up with this, with the instrument. So as I said, it work both ways. Tidak ada satu cara. There's no one way to say that you have to start first with, no, it can always go and back. And then you have to refine and finalize your theoretical framework. So feedback here showing blah, 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 blah. Finalize framework for implementation. A well-developed theoretical framework provides a clear directions for the research and ensure that the study is well designed and well executed. That's actually the importance of theoretical framework, ya. Okay. Ini adalah the advantages of having theoretical framework. Explicit statement, theoretical framework connects the researcher to the existing knowledge, articulating the theoretical assumption, and explicit statement of the theoretical. Sometimes we need to think hard actually to generate the theoretical framework after you have researched objective, research instrument, research objective, research question, and the research instrument. Okay. And base scholar had previously tested the theory in relation to the overall research design. Okay, now let's come back. Let's go what is conceptual framework. Research construct a model that outline the specific variable concept related to the study and informed by the theoretical framework. So I said, conceptual framework always tally to your theoretical framework. It's actually more on your research, the conduct of your research, the visual relationship of among key concept, variable and variable, dependent variable, dependent and independent variables, to guide data collection analysis and to provide a narrative or diagrams that explain your. It's a blueprint, well-crafted conceptual framework serve as a random. There's a slightly different between, don't get confused with conceptual framework and the research procedure. Okay? The research procedure is the detail of the concept framework that you have laid down. So it's a blueprint, it's a roadmap. Okay? So guiding the researcher to investigate the various concept logically and coherently. Okay. Macam seperti juga theoretical framework, conceptual framework juga ada jenis-jenis dia. There are different types of conceptual framework, such as taxonomy, visual representation, mathematical description. So I didn't enclose here. The example, I'll give you the link from the internet and from the website. You can view of the different types of conceptual framework. Actually, you can. So additionally, they can be used to structure how educational theories and models are applied, like in understanding student learning. Kita belajar educational research, something to do with teaching and learning. So it's tally to your theoretical framework lah. I'm talking specifically about teaching and learning. The title is Theoretical Framework, Theoretical and Conceptual Framework in Educational Research. Kita fokus pada education, bukan pada management, leadership ke whatsoever. Probably nanti tengok you saya buka lah saya. So, okay. Types of conceptual framework, you have taxonomy, visual representation, mathematical descriptions, working hypotheses, descriptive categories, pillar question, practical type models of operations research, and formal hypothesis. So ada taxonomy macam tu lah. So it can also be considered as a taxonomy. Tapi so this is a visual representation, mathematical description. Kita ini more like it lah, more like it. Descriptive, tailor, tapi macam ni sesuai lah. Well, okay. Additionally, they can be used to structure how educational theory. Okay, let's have it there. So here are the step-by-step guidance can create a conceptual framework. Select your research question. That's where you must have your research question first. It's the crucial step in developing a conceptual framework. When you have your research question, let's say you have 3 research questions, each research question might be addressed must be addressed using research instrument to collect data. So it's a crucial step. It's the crucial first step in developing a conceptual framework. So this step lays the foundations for your entire research project. Your research question is the central inquiry. Okay. Number one, when selecting your research question, identify your area of interest, review existing literature, and consider relevant and significant. Your question addresses a meaningful issue or problem in your field, which should be contribute to existing knowledge or have practical. So this actually a suggestion. I can't remember which website I'm referring to. And number two, sorry, says feasibility. Be specific, formulate the question. This is actually how you formulate your research question. And of course, your research question, the formulations of your research question is based on your research paradigm. Either you're doing positivism or interpretivism. So in short, there is qualitative or quantitative, or combination of both. Right? Okay, select and define your independent and dependent variables. So this is more like quantitative research. Right? Factors that manipulate or control in our study that are presumed to cause or influence independent variables. So you have independent, then you have dependent. So this is an example of independent variable. Independent study hours per week teaching method. Okay. So dependent variable. You select and define your independent and dependent variable before you can create your conceptual framework. So it all starts with your research question, research objective, and research question. Then you plan your your research instrument, and then you plan your conceptual framework. So moderator variable, and then you have the mediator variables. So what are the different? The different moderator affect the strength of the relationship. While mediator explain the process to reach independent variable influences the dependent variable. So what the steps? So you have a control variable as well. No? So the step 3 is determine the cause and effect relationship. Number 1, that you select your research question. Then you have to identify your dependent and independent variable. Then the third one is to see the relationship between the dependent and independent variable, the cause and effect of the relationship. Yeah? So causal relationship, review existing theory and literature, and consider the directions of the relationships. Account for complexity, consider time factors, etc. Right? Examine, beware, logical reasoning, visualize. So, okay, this is actually a free chapter. It's a free reference. It's a book. It's a chapter 2 from a book. It's free. But this one focus more on the qualitative research. Okay, let me show you example. Okay. So let's go to the title of the research done by this student. Student, okay, of course that you need to determine your research paradigm first. So the research paradigm is interpretivism, which is a qualitative nature. So student understanding through analogies developed with AI images, learning the immunology topic in biology. Student understanding through the technologies. Okay, what are the problem statement? So after writing, after completing what is the ontology, epistemology, and methodology. Okay, so we will look at the methodology, the methods. So the problem statement, this is, you have to understand the research topic before I explain a bit about what is the topic, the research topic, before I can explain the development of the theoretical framework. Okay. Okay, the problem statement immunology is challenging subject to teach, and then due to multiple component and complex interactions, students find the subject too abstract and have difficulty relating to its real-world problems. And we know that learning science, there are a lot of intangible concepts in an abstract concept you cannot see. Students cannot see, but students are forced to visualize. When students are forced to visualize, they have to use their cognitive ability to understand the process and how. So this topic is using what do you call this? AI images for the student to visualize. Help them to visualize correctly. The topic is about immunology. Immunology ni ialah immune system, ketahanan dalam badan. In biology, there's a topic called immunology and how to understand. Not only in biology, in many science subjects such as physics and chemistry, there are many abstract concepts. When we talk about abstract concept, when we want students to understand, we really need the student cognitive ability to we need to help the student. We have to help the student improve their cognitive ability. So one of the way, or one of the method is to use AI images. What is AI images? Okay, after explaining the pillars, the ontology, epistemology, and methodology, so you come up with the research question. So the first research question is to explore, how teaching incorporate. Of course, we use the how. How ni ialah for the qualitative. So explore how teacher incorporate teachings with analogies using AI generated images. To understand the abstract process in science, we need to have something. That's why we have alat bantu mengajar, teaching, learning aid. But in this case, we are using AI generated images. We use prompt, give a prompt to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will generate the images of this immunology. So second, this is for the teacher to teach how the teacher incorporate the AI generation in the learning, in the teaching, in his or her teaching process, teaching techniques in the classroom. To investigate, the student learn. And relate the analogy in the immunology classroom. And then how the use of analogy enhances the student understanding. This is all about cognitive. I remember I just mentioned about behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism. So we are talking about cognitivism. In understanding science concepts, we need to have both cognitivism and constructivism. Excuse me, cognitivism and combinations of both. If we talk about cognitive constructivism, we are referring to Piaget. If we talk about social constructivism, learning within groups, building knowledge through groups. So we normally refer to Vygotsky. Okay, So we formulate so these researchers have formulated the research questions. And so you have A, how does the teacher incorporate the teaching with analogies using AI generated images? Right? So the second question, how the student, this is on the part of the teacher, incorporate the teaching. And number two, how the student learn? Right? How the student, after the teacher have taught them to use the AI images, uh, AI images. Okay, and then how the use, okay. So basically we have the researchers have these interviews for data collections for research question one, the interviews. Okay. And then number two, using interviews and observations, and then the finding from both research question one and is to be reanalyzed, analyzed once again. So, excuse me. So, how do you formulate the theoretical framework? And how do we formulate? Because we have, I just mentioned, we have to understand your research question, research objective, research question, and your research instrument. Then you begin to think about your theoretical framework. Okay. The theoretical framework, as I just mentioned just now, it is about cognitive theory. Learning theories is always associated with learning and teaching. So cognitive, there's another term called metacognitive. What is actually metacognitive? You ask me, what is actually cognitive learning theories? What is cognitive? I just said that cognitive related to the mental. Cognitive ability of the student is how the student use their mental, their brain to process in order to understand. Okay? So mental process, cognitive ni ialah mental processor, proses mental untuk memahami knowledge, ilmu pengetahuan. Mental process used to acquire knowledge and understand the world. What is metacognitive? Metacognitive pula awareness and control of your own cognitive processes. It's thinking about thinking. Maknanya macam ni perumpamaannya macam ni. If we talk about cognitive skill, let's say cognitive skill tu is a skill you're driving a car. Meaning you know how to drive the car, you know how to steer the car, accelerate, brake, and so on. The technical skill of driving car. When we talk about metacognitive, is the skill being a driver instructor. You observe the driver, drive, provide feedback for the driver, and so on and so forth, and help them to improve. So itu ialah metacognitive. So it's one step ahead of cognition. So because ini ialah because ini melibatkan topic science, as I said, in science there's a lot of abstract concept that student to understand, and it takes the ability of the student, cognitive ability of the student to understand. Maka so yang paling sesuai, of course, the cognitive ability, cognitive theory. So maka the cognitive theory ni ada metacognition, ada by Brown, and then also by Jacobs and Paris, 1987, 1978. And both researchers ni, they talk about metacognition ni bagi kepada dua. You have to you have to you have to divide. You have to divide metacognition into two. Satu knowledge, satu regulation. So what is metacognitive and what is meta-regulation? Okay, student awareness of their thinking can differentiate between concept and they have mastered and one they must study further. Metacognition regulation ialah control of their thinking to facilitate their learning, able to select learning strategy for a task or modify the approaches. Okay, ini adalah by Brown and Jacobs. There's another person also talk about metacognition. It says that metacognition has to put into practice. This is by Bransford Brown and Cochrane 2000 lah. So you talk about meta cognitive practice. So kita combine this. So the underlying theory is a cognitive di sini. Kenapa ada macam ni? Okay, nanti we'll talk about conceptual framework, then we come back to the theoretical framework. So kita dah tahu, right after the research question objective, after you have formulate the research, after you have come up with the research objective, then you formulate your research questions, then you have a research instrument. From research instrument ni, barulah you develop the conceptual framework. Okay. Untuk conceptual framework ni, actually it's a model by Klein, Dewitt and Triff. It was 1995. And then combination lah dengan ni self-regulated learners, developing self-regulated learners. We are teaching the student macam ni. The aim of the objective the research is to teach immunology. Immunology adalah immune system dalam badan manusia. When you teach, let's say the student have to understand 3 subtopics. You have as a teacher, you have to teach student using AI images to understand the concept of immunology. Tunjuk cara. Then when it comes to the second subtopic, then the third subtopic, students are able to do it them by themselves. So we are not spoon feeding. We give them ways for them to understand and how to comprehend the complexities of this science punya concept and abstract ni. Then the student will on their own. That's why we combine TWA model dengan self-regulated learners. So dalam using teaching ni, there are ada 6 operation. Klein, Dewitt ni dia kata ada 6 operation. There are 6 operations. So you have the first, second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth. Okay. So dalam chapter 3, so the researcher dah develop lah. Dalam chapter 3 dah develop apa itu operation 1 nak buat apa. Okay, sini Teacher introduce the topic of immunology to student. There are 3 subtopics to be learned. Itu immunology lah. As I said, in science ni banyak concept abstract, intangible concept that sometimes hard for the student to grasp atau to comprehend. So subtopik satu ni ialah immune response against pathogen. Pathogen ni ialah pathogen ni macam perosak lah. It will destroy other cells. So you need to have immune response when there's a pathogen to strike back, to strike the pathogen. So jadinya teacher explain the process on how the innate immune system react pathogen. Okay, so ada 3 subtopic related to immunology that the student have to understand. Now using the first subtopic, the teacher now teaching the student how to use AI. So they have introduced ni introduce target concept. Ialah subtopik 1. Second operation, review the analog concept. Macam mana to understand, how to understand the target, how to understand the subtopic 1, the immune response to the pathogen. Macam mana to respond. So using AI untuk AI untuk understand, untuk guna AI images for the student to understand. Okay, there you have the third operation. Identify relevant features and target. Tengok, watch the AI images and compare to the subtopic that they are learning, and then for them to understand. So map similarity between the target and analog, indicate limitation of the analog, then draw conclusion. Evaluate, adjust, plan as needed. Ini on the part of the teacher, ini on the part of the student yang bawah ni. Ambrose 2010 in on part of student, they go through the process understanding the first research question. So, to understanding the subtopic 1. So nanti right after they finish, so they let the student to learn what is the subtopic number 2 by themselves. by following the steps that have been demonstrated by the teacher. So the research ni, sorry, to explore how teachers study ni, research question satu ni ialah using teaching models, using teaching methodologies. So you have A. Number two, investigate how students learn. For you to see ni, number two, student, as I said, the teacher gives way or introduce how to use the AI images to understand the subtopic one, immune response to the pathogen. So when the student want to learn when the student starts to learn subtopic 2 and subtopic 3, so they know how to go about doing it by themselves. Eventually, at the end of the day, students know how to learn by themselves because they are using technology lah. Sekarang kan zaman AI, everything is about artificial intelligence. So sesuai lah, sesuai lah. So itu tadi. So that's how your conceptual framework relate to the research question. Okay, now come back to the theoretical framework theoretical framework. Metacognitive awareness of thinking. The student become aware. Eventually, dekat metacognitive practice ni, the student able to do it by themselves. Putting metacognition into practice. I hope it's not. I hope it doesn't sound so complicated. That's how the theoretical framework and the conceptual framework come in place. Because as I said, you have to first understand your research paradigm. And what are the pillars of the research paradigm is the understanding what is ontology, what is a epistemology and methodology, and of course, axiology lah. Some references include axiology means that you as a researcher cannot be biased. If you want to talk about bias, it's a very subjective. You have to be true to yourself. As I said, before you conduct your research, everybody has a preconceived idea what will be the result be. So that's actually counts as theology. You cannot be biased. Okay, I summarize. You have to have your topic, your research topic. Of course, to the research paradigm. Is it qualitative, quantitative, or combination of both? Or you have to have your research objective and research question. What is your research instrument? Then you can generate the theoretical framework and conceptual framework. But sometimes it works both ways. You can also start with conceptual theoretical framework and conceptual framework first. You go and back. See whether it fits. See whether it makes sense. You can see the logic of the logics of the everything. So I think that's all for today. You can also make some references here. Blaney.com. Probably you have come across this website before. And this one, chapter 2, conceptual framework in research, but it is mainly for qualitative research. If you are doing qualitative research, probably it will be good reading for you. I'm not sure you are given a copy of this PDF. Okay, I think we are almost finished. I think we have like 10 more minutes before we end our session if you have any question. As I said, this is not a lecture. This is just a sharing session. Okay, kalau tak ada apa-apa, if there is nothing to ask, I think I will end now. So have a good day of conducting your research. Itu saja. Assalamualaikum.